video day, guys. Today we have a new eyeshadow palette that just released. So we're gonna do another Make Up Your Mind because I need to know if I own this. So if you guys are new to the series and you have never seen it before, this is a new type of series and something that you're used to seeing on YouTube. Basically what I do is I go through my collection and I see if a certain eyeshadow palette that just released is unique enough for me to add to my collection. So this is not for you to have the same eyeshadow palettes as me. This is a way that we can sit down together, you can look through your collection, I can look through my collection to try to see if we can find tones in our eyeshadow palettes that match or are very close to the tones that are being released by these new releases. Why? Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have 5,000 eyeshadow palettes, and the rate that this is going, we probably will eventually. So I am basically trying to love the eyeshadow palettes that I have, learn them. If I can start using these color stories that these designers are coming out with and using the palettes that I currently own in my collection. We're gonna be talking about the Charlotte Tilbury new palette, Tilbury, I can't say Bury by the way. We're gonna talk about the Charlotte Tilbury new palette that she just released. It's called the Easy Eye Palette for the Charlotte Darling Look. That's a long title. Looks like this. And I feel like when we all saw this palette release, I think most of us said, that's a pretty eyeshadow palette. I can probably use that daily. But if you're like me, which a lot of you guys, if you're watching this video, you have kind of been stocking up on a lot of eyeshadow palettes lately. And this is not a very new concept of colors. So we may actually have these in our collection already. I was looking through my collection to see if I can find these similar tones in the eyeshadow palettes that I currently own, and I actually was able to find all of them coming out of 2 eyeshadow palettes, which made me very happy because I found very similar tones. They might not be 100% exact, but on the eyes, they're gonna give me a very similar look. And they're saying that this new eyeshadow palette is $57 US. It's only coming with 6 eyeshadows. Now I own Charlotte Tilbury, guys, and I know her formula is incredible. I own Charlotte Tilbury. I have a few palettes from her and I do love her formula, but I also own palettes that I love their formula as well, like Natasha Denona. I also think the KKW Beauty formula was pretty damn good as well. I've got a lot of other eyeshadow palettes that I love their formulas. Even though I really do like Charlotte Tilbury's formula and I think it does blend amazing, I need to really love this palette. It needs to be unique in order for me to add it. And guys, we're gonna make up our mind right now on whether this palette was unique enough for me. So if you want, go ahead and go to your collection, find any of your warm tone palettes. A lot of people are saying it reminds them a lot of the Naked, Urban Decay Naked Heat. Don't own that palette or some of the other Urban Decay palettes. If you guys own those palettes, you should pull them out. And if you own this one from Natasha Denona, which is the Sunrise palette that just released, you might want to pull that one out too. So let's go ahead and let's search through our collections and let's see if this palette is unique enough to add to my collection. So let's see what I found, and I think I might have made the palettes. So I found very similar tones. I do think that some of the tones in the Charlotte Tilbury might go a little bit deeper, but not enough to make a big difference on the lid. I highly doubt it. So let's start off with the first color from this palette. So I'm not going to be saying the Charlotte Tilbury names because I don't know what they are. So I'm going to be using Trend Moods swatches. I think she does a pretty damn good job of showing pretty realistic swatches. So now this first color in the end, if you guys can see, this is a very dark kind of brown shade that has a gray undertone. Just saw something very similar to this in another Make Up Your Mind, so I already jumped to this palette. I already knew it was in here. We've got Loyalty from KKW Beauty. This is a very similar tone. If you guys can see in the swatches, the tone is super similar. I think that they're gonna look very similar on the eyes. I will tell you that I probably would prefer the Charlotte Tilbury formula over this one in this color specifically, but I'm not gonna buy the palette for that color. It's just not gonna happen. Kind of have that one, I think, pretty down packed there. Now, if we move on, the next color I did see as well, and it kind of reminded me again of my KKW Beauty, and it's this color right here called Albanian. This color looks so much lighter in the pan than when you swatch it. When you swatch it, it has more of a richer orange tone. You guys can kind of see that in this swatch. If you guys see it in the photograph, the color to the Charlotte Tilbury one, I really do feel like they're going to be pretty similar. The one in the KKW Beauty may go a tad bit more orange, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. And to be honest, this color and this color, when mixed together, they're gonna look very similar to those two colors mixed together. It's not gonna be a huge difference. So those two colors I own in this palette, I feel. Now the next color is a metallic shade, and this one looked a little bit unique, but I felt like I had seen a similar tone. And that's this color right here coming out of the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. Now I had just purchased this palette just recently, so I did feel like I had seen this tone called Alizia. Now I kind of feel like that tone may be a little different in the Charlotte Tilbury one. I think this one might shift a little bit more orange, whereas I think the Charlotte Tilbury one goes a little bit more pink. And for me personally, when I was looking at that tone, I was like, I really like it, but it's not like that is a tone I gravitate to all the time. So I do think that the Charlotte Tilbury one in this specific metallic may go a little bit more pink than the ones that I was able to find. And I looked through a few different palettes. I did try to find one that shifted a little bit more pink, but still had a little bit of that orange kind of undertone to it. This is the only color I was able to find. Now, they may look a little bit different, but I don't know. It's not like, yes, that's the reason I need to spend $57. It's not there yet. The next tone that's in this palette, I feel like I've seen, and this is a tone that's been coming out a lot. This has different variations of this tone, but it is a very similar tone, and I've seen the different variations, and I've put different variations on my lid. And I do feel like at the end of the day, after blended, a lot of them look very similar. So I did find this color Morgan inside of the Sunrise palette. And I do feel like this color is going to be pretty similar. It might be a little bit lighter, but there's so many palettes with this same tone in it that I could probably pull another palette, maybe even the Born to Run that has a similar tone. This is a very typical tone. I've seen it a lot. So this one is like, okay, I kind of have that one, and I love Natasha Denona's formula, so I wouldn't buy this tone for Charlotte Tilbury's formula. Next color, I did feel like I found a pretty damn close match inside of the Sunrise palette as well. So that is this color right here on the top that's called Laurel. Now Laurel actually has like that same peachy undertone shift that I kind of see in this swatch. It kind of has that same peach undertone. I do feel like for sure this one's gonna be pretty similar. Like I feel like I'm gonna feel like it looks similar. Like when you swatch them, they may have a different undertone, but when you apply them to the lid, you're probably gonna say, damn, nobody's gonna be able to tell that this is different. Like that's what I see with this one. So because of that, I'm like, no, that's also one that's not different enough. It's not different enough for me. So now the last shade, I feel like I just saw it, and this one I think is going to be pretty spot on. That is this one right here called 2008 from the KKW Beauty line. This is a very white undertone metallic. It's a beautiful shade, and I really honestly love this shade, but at the same time I feel like I kind of have it. Like it's not something I would run out to purchase, and I do feel like I do have other palettes that have a similar shade to this. This is just like a very shiny white metallic beautiful tone, but I do kind of have it, and I have seen it before. So after looking at all of them, I feel like I own this palette. Like I own this palette in multiple palettes, and there's different palettes that have like similar color stories that you're going to create like the same kind of eye look. So for me personally, I'm not going to be picking this one up, even though I do love Charlotte Tilbury's formula, and I do think that she has amazing eyeshadows. I love a lot of the eyeshadow palettes that I own. If I don't have them in my collection anymore, it's most likely because I've decluttered them and I don't like them. But if they're here, I really love their formula. So I do love the palettes I have, and this palette just was not unique enough for me. Do love her formula. It's just, I don't need it. Now, I will tell you guys one thing that I did find very cool. I couldn't find any colors that look similar in her brand new holiday palette to this new palette, so that's actually really good. So if you guys are Charlotte Tilbury fans, and maybe you don't have a lot of warm tone palettes, I didn't find any from this palette. And I also jumped into the Icon palette too to see if I could find any of these shades in those palettes, and there really wasn't. So that's a good thing. So if you guys are looking at this palette and you're like, well, is it gonna be similar to the Icon or to the holiday palette? It's not. So that could be a reason for you to want to purchase it. Now I have told you guys before too, if it's out of convenience and you do own these shades, but you feel like this palette is going to be the palette that you're gonna use every single day, and you just want these shades all together because this is your style, then the palette will be worth it for you to purchase. For me, I honestly don't do like orangey kind of like warm tone eyeshadow looks that often. I have like even the Sunrise palette and some of my other orangey tone palettes like this one here that I just got in BoxyCharm not that long ago. I reach for them, but it's not like it is my like go-to look. So I jump into them every once in a while, but I don't go to them that often. So for me, it's kind of like an obvious, hey, you should pass on this. But I definitely wanted to sit here with you guys and tell you guys my opinion, show you guys the swatches, and hopefully you guys will start looking through your collection, look at the colors, and really look at the color story and think to yourself, hey, is this a color story I love to wear? Because if it is, and you don't own that many of those palettes, maybe it's worth it to pick up, but otherwise, skip it. Once you go through this process and you start to remember all the colors inside of your eyeshadows, because you're gonna start remembering the colors inside of your eyeshadow palettes. All you have to do then is start looking at the color stories and use those color stories to go into your eyeshadow palettes and create looks. It could be 2 eyeshadow palettes, it could be 1, but it's not worth it to just continuously buy them all unless you really love it, like I said, because I'm not against you buying an eyeshadow palette that you really love. Perfect example, Natasha Denona Gold palette. I did not need those browns, but I love that they were all brown and gold, and I thought it was a perfect palette. And honestly, that was one of my best investments. Don't rush and press that buy now button. Look through your collection, see if it's something you're really gonna use. But until the next Make Up Your Mind, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and if you like this type of video, a lot of you guys have given me such amazing feedback. Honestly, guys, the positive feedback on this series that I've gotten from some of you guys is just so awesome. Like, it's really good. Like, I've gotten some negative things, but the positive ones are so strong that it just really makes me want to just keep doing more and more and more. So thank you guys so much for that, and let me know below what was your final thoughts on this palette. Did you guys have similar stuff? What did you guys think? And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.